I'll record too. Greetings, beloved. Star Child Rising. You are in Christina's Corner, and I am Christina. So glad to welcome you here today for my next episode of my podcast interview series. Wait till I tell you about my guest today. My guest today is Matt Penner, a dedicated integrative energy healer who offers a holistic approach to wellness that nurtures you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Matt integrates various advanced modalities of energy healing to restore peace, self love, joy, and happiness to enhance your overall being. Matt remembers always being drawn to metaphysical topics from a young age before he discovered numerology and became a certified numerologist. After practicing for a few years, he felt drawn to take a Reiki class and has been evolving ever since. Matt resides in southern New Jersey, but he also does virtual healing sessions. And don't worry, we'll put all his information in the description for you. Without further ado, welcome, Matt.
Hi, everyone.
So glad to have you here. I'm so glad that you agreed to be on the show. Um, so, without further ado, let's get started on the questions that I have for you. Um, you mentioned that when you were doing numerology for the first few years, you felt called to take a Reiki class. Can you share a little bit of what that feeling felt like and how you knew that this was the next step in your cosmic ascension?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And thank you for having me on your podcast. I greatly appreciate that. And for me, it was a culmination of a few things. I don't think it is a one feeling, and I just knew, wow, I got to take Reiki. To me, it was a few things going on during that time. I would say between 2017 and 2019. Reflecting back on it now, I can reflect and say that a lot of my childhood issues and past life issues had came to the surface. It was both, I would say, changes and transformation happening in my life, but also a lot of sadness and I don't want to say chaos, but unclear, uncertain times in my life of the direction I wanted to take my life. During those times, I was in my early 30s, still living at my mother's house, still working my high school job, and just trying to figure out life. And I did start with numerology. And after a few years of studying and learning, I was able to branch out to do that professionally, to offer my services online as well as to the community, doing community events. And I had first moved out of my mother's house in 2018. So there's a lot of emotions that are coming with me and a lot of challenges that were presented as well. So through all of that, a friend had mentioned about she was going to take a Reiki level one course. And I felt like, okay, I am very open minded. I wanted to see what this was about. I wanted to experience it myself. So I took the level one class, and I would say a couple of months later, when I thought I was just practicing on friends and family, realizing it wasn't really practice at all. That I would say that I was discovering my own intuitive abilities. I feel like they were always there. I just never knew what they were. Unfortunately, they don't teach you this in high school or college. So you had no idea how to access the different clairs of your body, the different messages, the channeling. It just came to be when I was doing Reiki sessions on my friends and family, and the messages and what I was psychically seeing and feeling, hearing, all the above, I would say, just a sense of knowing through a session. And then the response of the client, the work itself done, we were both had realized that it was way more than just a typical Reiki session. That the effects, the what they were experiencing was much more than a regular Reiki session from the feedback I was getting. So I knew that I was working with different sources than just the regular Reiki energy. I just didn't understand what it was, but it took time for me to get more experience during that time and the years to come to develop and understand more fully of what I was doing and what I'm capable of doing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you.
Um, and so to get into the next question, I want to talk about how we met. So, as you know, um, I was looking for an energy practitioner when I first moved here to the southern New Jersey area. And so, when I was doing research and I came up with you, you weren't steeped in years and years of experience, but I knew that you were the one. I knew that I was being drawn to you. And we ended up, if you remember, we ended up meeting during the full eclipse back in April.
Yes.
Remember? And it was such an overwhelming experience for me because you were the very first person, and I've been dabbling in the metaphysical world for years and years and years, but you were the very first one who was able to take me back to a past life for real, for real. And so that had never happened before, and I had tried on several occasions. So I don't know if I just wasn't ready at that time, and now was the time for it to happen. But you certainly took me back to three very relevant past lives. And as you, I believe that we come and go many, 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 many times. So the three that my spirit team decided to take me back to, I am still now processing how pivotal those lives were and how they are impacting me today. So I so appreciate that with you.
It was my
I want
pleasure.
to ask you I want to ask you that, that during those sessions, it was very clear to me that we were not alone, during those sessions. And I know that you had mentioned, that your guides were there and you had felt some of my guides there as well, or my ancestors as well there. And so, can you share a little bit of what that feels like when you're in the moment?
Oh, that's another great question. I would say so. A lot of times, when you're working the 5D, the five dimensional, which my line of work does, when I take my conscious and I call it zoning in into my higher self and be able to see things on a five dimensional level. So when I do that, I would say at times it's not as obvious. It's not as like how we can see obvious on a three-dimensional level, physical level, where it's not like, oh, there's a couple people right there. Oh, hey, how's it going? To me, it's more or less a feeling. And when I lean into that, it gets stronger and stronger, like a psychic muscle. It becomes bigger, and I can feel the energy as an empath. So when I'm zoning in, when I'm working on someone, a lot of times I'm not aware of what anyone else is there. But when I don't think about it, it comes to me, and I can start to feel more. I can still feel the other's presence. For example, I may be working on your root chakra, having no idea what's going on, and then for a split second, I'll feel something and realizing maybe your crown chakra is being worked on or your heart chakra is being worked on. And then when I feel pull to move from an area, I might work on that area and I can feel maybe heat already in that existing area. But everyone is different. Every session is different. No one session, even with the same client, is going to be the same. Everyone is very unique for what they need at that moment. So I would say that's my experiences, and what the client's feedback to me is oftentimes I may be standing above them over their third eye or crown chakra, which is our headspace. And then they may open their eyes and then quickly shut them. And then in the feedback section at the end of the session, they may say that they knew that I was over their head. They had to take a look, but they could have, in their words, quote, sworn they felt a man's hands touching their feet or touching their knees or touching their stomach. vice versa. Of where I am, they could feel a man's hands. They perceive that as in another area of their body. So that's usually their feedback for me. And oftentimes I might not even be aware until I start to lean into that energy.
Very cool. Very cool. I love how you explain it too. Because as someone who has been sitting in that chair while you're at work, I can understand, what you're saying because I'm feeling things too. And sometimes as we talked about it afterwards, we were able to compare at the same time things that were happening or that we were feeling, right? And it's
Yes.
really, really fascinating. The energy work is really fascinating. And so that brings me to my next question. The next question was at some point, as you began your energy work, you started working with a with Alfie, a Starseed Collective. Tell us a little bit about Alfie and how that connection began and where you are with it right now.
Yes. So a little bit about me as well. I had started with Reiki, I want to say 2019. Then in 2021, I opened up even more by learning a few other deeper energy healing modalities, such as shamanism and Archangel Metatron healing and the Violet Flame, which Ascended Master Saint Germain overseas, along with Archangel Zedekiel and a few others as well. And it was during from that time, 2021 to 2024, I was learning how to work with different modalities in the same session. And I guess at one point, I would say at the end of 2023, where I guess maybe mentally I always knew there was more, but emotionally you get comfortable. It's almost like you feel internally, is this it? I mean, I'm working with quote unquote God's energy, a God source energy with the violet flame. Can there be anything else? And also seeing the experiences my clients have been having as well. But every time you start to doubt things or you slow down or you don't think about it, the universe tends to say, well, wait a second, there's actually way more than we know. Because spirituality is a infinite ocean of wisdom. There's no boundaries, there's no limits or structure. It's an endless, endless ocean. And everyone, including myself, not just mentally forgets it, but emotionally forgets it. We don't realize it because we're just so used to doing what we do or knowing what we know. And then we get these profound experiences, which I experienced last year in 2024 when I left my day job of 22 years, dating back to high school, March of 2024. I want to say around between April and May of 2024 is when I started to get connected with my starseed, Alfie. And it was in drips and drabs, I would say, from spring of 2024 all the way to the September of 2024. And it's a whole process because when I say I received downloads and visions of him and his, I call it the realm that I operate, and then I use shamanic terms because the shamans believe in an upper world, which a lot of us known as heaven, but the upper world is very elusive, where it covers a lot of higher vibrational frequencies, such as dragons, and also time and space and other realms exist in the upper world. So, learning going through the upper world into Alfie's realm, learning to take my clients and myself and Alfie along with the space journey into his realm using the sources of his realm for healing, and it was a huge process because I definitely feel like the words don't really do it justice to really have everyone understand what I essentially went through. Because it would start off in a cycle where something of a triggering in my physical 3D life would happen, and I would have to release or let go of a person or a mindset or emotion. And then afterwards, I would get hit with a physical alignment or alignment where I would have vertigo for 5 days. In June, I never had vertigo in my life. And then in May, I had a swollen red eye come out of the blue for 5 days. And I thought five was always a very interesting number. But by the sixth day, both the eye and in June, the vertigo, like a snap of a finger, almost like a magic wand, it was zapped away. I was feeling 100%, which normally that doesn't happen. Normally there's a transitional period when you experience those similar physical ailments. And during that 6 day of both instances, I felt very, very light, super, super light. And then so all of a sudden during that day, I would just know things. I would just see things that weren't explained. Like I might saw his realm or got connected with him or got channeled into a new modality from his realm to use for my clients. And it really tests your sanity, honestly, because as an energy healer, when you learn Reiki and the other modalities, you're being channeled by a third party, a person, usually a Reiki master per se, and they channel from source into the vessels of the Reiki master into the person. So when I was going through my process, there was no middleman. It was just straight me and spirit. And what I was doing had to rely on a level of trust. As I was working on the last few years, and it was like a test, not test, but like a open feel. Okay, you learn these things. Now go do what you've been working on. I was like, okay. But it was my clients, my greatest source of wisdom. They're the ones that verified a lot in what I was doing. The feedback I was getting from Reiki practitioners who I worked on prior to these experiences I had last year into that moment, they felt like the energy sources were lighter, but it felt more, it sank in deeper on a soul level, where it felt like it affected them more on a deeper eternal basis. And then through this process, seeing, learning, channeling different modalities. And then by August and September, learning through them. I say learning through Alfie and the Sarsi Collective I'm working with into my clients at the time, showing me how to organize it where I was able to form my own system of healing.
It's really interesting. And I remember there was one time where I went to visit you when you were doing a mini healing at some bookstore. I believe you were doing a mini healings. And so me and my daughter stopped by to see you. I believe it was then. And you gave me like a 10-minute session. And, when we do the sessions, you're always encouraging me to talk about what I feel or what I see. And so immediately I started to see like this greenish, yellowish green color that I hadn't seen before when working with you. And do you remember that? I was
Yes,
like,
at the
Whoa, what is this? What is this color?" And you were like, "That's Alfie's realm." Like
yeah.
it was like you were almost surprised, that
Yes.
I was mentioning it. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yes, I
Thanks for
definitely remember. It's called the Peace Love Expo, I believe, that we were at.
okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, so now that you spent so many years doing numerology and now you've kind of evolved into the energy work, but I know as an astrologer, you and who is delving into energy work myself, that the study of numerology never leaves you. So, are you able to use numerology in your energy sessions and combine it? Are you still working with numerology now? Do you still see clients? Or how does that work?
That's another excellent question. So I would say around 2020, 2021, I was starting to lean off of numerology. I was feeling more called at the time to learn more of the energy healing field. And also, I already established myself with the spiritual community. And on a personal level, I just didn't want to feel boxed in or labeled or identified as, quote unquote, the numbers guy. And it's like buying a burger from a pizza place. People know you as pizza, they're going to label it as pizza. So I was doing my best to start forming my own identity through the terms of where I was being guided towards as far as the energy healing practices. But it's interesting you bring this question up because I would say, even tying to the last question with Alfie, I felt like a lot of the learning has been winding down last fall, where I was being guided more towards accessing different realms. I think that was the key to the whole beginning of last year, first learning his realm and then learning how to access different realms for different clients and be able to have more of a self empowerment through my spiritual practice that way. So I started to feel later. I started beginning October and then progressed in November, December, a lightness in me. And I definitely felt those Alfie's energy slowly starting to take the hands off the wheel and putting me in the driver's seat towards things. And I would say January is when I actually had thought of bringing my numerology services back as far as full sessions and bringing that, because that's always a part of me. And you made a great point where we dive into other things, but when our roots are always going to be our roots. As astrology is always your roots, and numerology is always going to be my roots. So, and everyone, I feel like, learns differently. Everyone, especially when they're first learning, dabbling into the spiritual realm. I mean, numerology was my gateway, so I'm happy to provide numerology as a gateway for others as well and see where it takes them. So I've been doing that since January, offering as a full service. And as far as combining the two, that's another interesting point. When I was first learning numerology, learned it in 2010, and I spent a few years from 2010, I would say, to 2017, just observing people. Didn't realize I was using my gifts as far as being an empath and the intuitive part. I thought I was just physically observing someone. Didn't realize what I was doing. Didn't know that's what it was called. But as I was observing others, reconnecting the numbers of their chart to their behavior and to their vibration on a deeper level. So I felt during that time, I even had a conscious thought, and I still remember this. Didn't this is back then between 2010, 2017, not even energy healing wasn't even on my radar at this point. And I definitely had the thoughts back then is because with certain numbers, actually all the numbers can dictate where it's on your chart, can indicate certain past life energy you're bringing into the table in this life. If there's any karmic energy that you may be working out of from past lives in this energy, as well as emotional challenges that we all have that we're working through as far as working through our soul's mission in life and what we're here to do. So I thought those three things I just mentioned, I wonder there's a way to work them out. Instead of being in stone or instead of a label toward that, I wonder if they can somehow be transformed. It was just a thought. But then I was doing the energy healing, fast forward early 2000, 2019 and the early 2020s, it kind of hit me, especially when I learned past life healing, when I took my Akashic Records healer course. And that's the basis of what a lot of our sessions, I mean, you did, Christine. So when I learned that a few years ago, it's like almost a 360 of realizing that accessing past lives, transmuting the energy of them, but not just me doing it, it's me being a guide and setting up the field, energetic field for you, the client, you, the person, to do your self healing in, and realizing that, yes, we have certain energies that we may still be working out that are connected to past lives that could be, I don't know, it's better to say hindrance, I would say, into what our mission is this life and there's certain spiritual lessons we want to learn. So it's a way of smoothing it out. It's a way of being more clear into our connection to our higher selves so we can go about our current lessons in a better way. Not the word better, I would say in a more enlightened way. I think it's a better word, more enlightened way. So we don't have the past to drag us down as it once did. So I feel like numerology can explain the energy, and then the energy healing can allow you to do the work.
Mm, that's a great way to explain it. Very good. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Um, and so a lot of it is about integration of all of our experiences, and we get the experiences we get because we're supposed to experience what we're drawn to. So that's very cool for you to explain it that way. Um, so you've worked with a lot of different people over the years that you've been active, and you have connected deeply, as evidenced by me and others who had given you very great reviews um, for the work that you do. So when you work with people, are you noticing anything that you can share with us? Are you noticing some of the themes of the messages that are coming through from the upper realm?
That's another great question. Again, I feel like every client is going to be different in what they work on. But I would say from my own observance of, and I would say, yes, I would say what the collective and what my guides have been helping me, and as far as also drawing other clients to me, as far as and maybe a common theme, I would say a sense of trust. I'd say a confidence and trust within ourselves and releasing and letting go self doubt and self sabotage, releasing that and working on the deep blockages, both from this life and from our past lives, to help transmute, to overcome, so we can trust ourselves more and trust our higher self, trust our soul's being, essential, our essence, and what we can do without question.
Wow, that's interesting. It makes me think of, when I did your astrology chart, it was very clear to me that you are someone who is to teach the teacher or heal the healer. So through healing yourself. And so as you've had to deal with a lot of these trust issues and trusting yourself, perhaps you're drawing people like me who have to learn how to trust in myself and my, abilities. Um, and so maybe, that's the reason that we're pulled to the people that we're supposed um, to work with. So that's very interesting.
I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly with that statement. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just like, for whoever's watching this show, whoever feels drawn to watch this show, you're supposed to watch it. And so the focus is not on how many people watch it, but the ones who connect with the messages they're receiving through the show. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
The last question I want to ask you, Matt, what is the hardest, or what do you think the greatest challenge you have had in your journey, that you can share, that you're willing to share? And then what do you think is next? What do you feel is coming up next for you?
Yeah, that's another great question, actually. I love your questions, by the way, to get to the
Thank
heart of
you.
the matter of things. I think they're excellent, honestly. So I would say my greatest challenge, if I had to be, straight shooter and honest, again, I tie into what I last said about trusting myself and also continuously working on not caring what people think. And it's been a very tough lesson because I guess I'm a very friendly person. I do want people to like me
All
and to
right.
understand me and to respect me, and I felt like the universe always had given me these very tough lessons and experience with that. And I feel like lessons are a cycle. So oftentimes we excel in a cycle or a level. It never ends. It never quits. It never stops. There's always a deeper core thing, like an onion peel. We get closer and closer to the core. And it also gets more difficult because we're able to handle more difficult things as we release and let go of. So experiences increase in that, and just even me, I take a second sometimes when I feel overwhelmed or I things get triggered, and I try to work it out both mentally and the energy exercises that I do for myself as well, as far as releasing, taking that moment of reflection, understanding what I'm going for, and affirmations. And I would point the cue at that as far as where I'm part of where I'm going next is I have been into the last couple of weeks as far as, and this actually ties into the astrology reading I had with you as far as this year taking action upon the things. And I tie that into the healings I've done myself as well the last few years, now taking the action upon that. And now really focusing on manifesting, being on a more physical, mental level with the energy I feel like now aligned to my mental and physical state of learning how to manifest, not with my energy leaning into that, but now aligning that to mental of reformulating. So been looking up different YouTube channels and different ones that may resonate. And I'm a very creative person. I always kind of bestow that to my clients. I can provide a template, but to go with your own with it. And I'm also the same with my own personal stuff. So I definitely would take someone else's, and whatever words come to mind, I just run with that. So there's a certain frequency, a hertz frequency I've been looking into YouTube as far as trying to get into subconscious, the theta brainwave state, and then doing the headphones and also affirmation YouTube videos to try to access that subconscious, and me just saying it out loud, like I am abundant, I am love, success comes easy to my life, wealth comes easy to my life. I open it with I am grateful with open arms. I accept it. Just saying things over and over again until I can feel a certain state of certain comfortness, and just trying to be consistent with it every day. Is it easy? No. But I guess we all can do things, as even when I teach my clients certain energy exercises and certain techniques. But even I tell them, as I tell myself, practice makes perfect. The more that I can do, the better you can get. Just like going to the gym. You're not going to get big muscles or lose 50 pounds in one day, but every little bit helps. And it doesn't matter how long you take on the journey, it's that consistent effort that's eventually going to pay off. So that's what I'm doing and trying to focus my goals on manifesting. And to tie into that, and my starseed Alfie, as I mentioned before, felt like his energy starting to lean off of me and trying to put me in that driver's seat where I envision myself this year, where I can go into any of the realms pertaining to a particular client to access their sources of energy for their self healing. Am I there 100% yet? No, I feel like the word drips and drabs come into play. Sometimes I'll see it, sometimes I don't, sometimes I have to fall back to Alfie. And it's just another process I feel like I'm learning that I'm working out as well for this coming year.
Exciting times,
Yes, they
especially
are.
with so much happening in the world, just the start of 2025, so much craziness has been happening. So exciting times though. And so keep me posted, and maybe next time let's do it again. And then maybe
Yes.
next time we can do a live or something. Once I get a
Mm.
little more tech savvy, um, I would love to do some more conversations as this work is ever evolving and always of the mindset to want to learn more. And these conversations for me are fascinating. So thank you so much for being a guest on my show. And for those of you watching, I will put Matt Penner's information in the description. Have a good night, everybody. Love and light to you.
Thank you so much, Christine, and everyone have a great night.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.